If the YouTube is up and running, including voice, sometimes we are missing the voice, you know. Yeah. And Adam, please wait until we do the initial introduction. Running, okay, including voice. Yeah, and sometimes we are missing the voice, you know. Yeah. So and Adam, please wait until we do the initial introduction. So it's coming for my voice. All right, this is sorry. Okay, so the YouTube looks like it's up and running. All right, Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so give me several minutes so that I can do the start of the event. All right, so thank you everybody to coming to the Meetup, Tokyo.net Developer Meetup. This is 35th, right? Yeah. So we have 3 speakers, one Adam from Europe, and another Ken here, another Ken here. We have 2 Kens today. And thanks for Iedo for the pizza. Alex, do you have any comment?
No, but
no.
Make a sticker.
All right, I did have a sticker for giveaway today. I did very cute actually. So there are several logos on top of it, right? And you may want to explain what they are.
Oh, yes.
Afterward.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we have 3 speakers, and I got the one information for you guys. We Microsoft have an open position all the time, and today I would like to explain there are 2 open positions: software engineer, senior software engineer, which is posted on LinkedIn as well. But I think this opportunity is very interesting. So any of you who would like to work in Microsoft or just have interest, let me know so that I can share any opportunity. Right? Okay.
You're a software engineer in what?
So that's the question, right? So you see the link, right? Click the link. Tap, 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 tap. All right, now let me hand this over to Adam. Adam, it's all yours, and let me just share your desktop to YouTube. And could somebody check YouTube if you can see Adam's desktop? Do you or not? Can everybody see? Adam, please wait until we confirm you are online.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Yep. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. Today I would like to, of course, yeah, talk about the product we are doing, but basically why we actually created that and what was the purpose and what was the need. Because 22 years ago, with my older brother, we have created our first company. It was a software house. We started creating a software. In all of those years, we basically devised 5 software houses that create various enterprise-grade software for larger organizations, Fortune 500, and so on. And if you are programming for quite some time, you see that we are improving as the industry. We are improving a lot of our practices, the agile and so on. But debugging have improved only slightly. It's still in a pre-internet era, and that was a problem that we try to think about for quite some time. Because if you are a smaller company and you're working for large enterprises, then you basically have to deal with some very strict service level agreements when you have to fix anything in matters of hours or maybe days, but at top. And it's quite hard if you're a quite small or medium-sized team, and we have struggled with that. And basically that was the reason we actually came up with the idea of LibDebug. But first, I would like to go through how we debug software as programmers. And there's this humorous think about the 6 stages of debugging. So the first is that can't happen, and the second is that doesn't happen on my machine, or in most cases we are just saying that it works on my machine. That shouldn't happen. Why does that happen? And of course there is the elimination phase. Yep, I know why. And yeah, how did that ever work? And I'm not sure how many of you can feel that, but yeah, that was a common problem for me when I was debugging software for a long time, because debugging is just hard. It's not a predictable process, and if the problem happens not on your machine, so you can't replicate it easily, it can take a lot of time to fix it. And when I was measuring time of error fixing process in our company, I figured out that most fixes are quite small. It's like 3-5 lines of code most, but the problem is where to put those, and that's why we came with the idea of RibDebug. What's the RibDebug? RibDebug is a reverse debugger for .NET. And it basically allows us to record what code is executed, what the variable values were when it was executed. And when the error happens, we can trace back, like in a recording, to the root cause of the problem. So without so what problems we try to solve with RibDebug? Of course, we try to cut on the debugging time and make it a more predictable process. We are as developers, yes, we would like to be able to have a remote access to the process that's running, especially if that's in some environment we actually don't have access to. So we don't have the tools to even diagnose the problem. And and also, if you have an application that you are developing for a long time, in most cases the documentation is a little bit outdated. So seeing what code is actually executed can help you greatly in understanding what actually the design of the app is, what it does under the hood when it runs. So some of you might have an experience like me, that you have wasted like an hour analyzing a code that never gets executed at all. But it's not easy sometimes to understand that. Okay, so without any further ado, I will just drop to Visual Studio. Okay, and I have a Visual Studio with RibDebug installed, and I have opened my solution here. I will enable RibDebug for my project, so it will be compiled with RibDebug. Let's maybe start that. Okay. Let's wait for the compilation to succeed. Yeah. Okay. And that's our WPF app that basically serves as a demonstration here. I will execute the first demo. Okay. And after closing the app, the recording that was made during its runtime is loaded here. There is the RibDebug panel here. I see my recording. It was quite short, like 12 seconds. I can basically see the timeline of what happened in the application here. So those are the main events, and I can jump to that moment in time. Okay, so I see that this moment in time was in the line 18, and what I can see here are the variable values overlaid by RibDebug on the source code. So I can easily basically reason about, okay, why that code was executed, when it was executed, and what was the output of that code. And with the recording, with RibDebug, I can actually move forwards, okay, or backwards in time of execution. So I can trace what happened and why. So that's the basic idea of Redebug. And of course, you could recording all of your app execution on production, but that's quite expensive. We do have a recording server. You can hook up your application there, and you can set up some data retention policies to actually not run out of the disk space. But it's not always be able to actually record everything every time. So what I will actually do with my app, I will use the facility of crash recording. Crash recording is basically ability to retain like 2,000 steps of your application executions when it crashes. It doesn't record anything at all when it doesn't crash. And it does have only slight performance penalty to make it happen. So I will make the crash recorder a default option here, and I will rebuild my app. Okay, let's close that. Yep. Okay, and I will actually run it. It's in release, so I will actually run it outside of Visual Studio. So it doesn't need any debugging session actually running. Okay, so right now I will execute the demo that will basically crash the app. So let's crash it. Yep, it died. And in my Visual Studio, in the crash recorder tab, I actually have this exception recorded. I can open that. Okay. I think okay, let me go here. Okay, I'm sorry, it's okay. Yeah. Okay, and I can see the exception here. I can jump to that moment in time, and I see that I got the null reference exception. Basically, I already see that the node MPG was null. This demo is basically reading an XML file and transferring it to some different format. But what I can actually, and of course I could right now trace back each step of the application, going back in time here. But what I will do, I will actually open the Redebug locals window that shows me all of the variable values in the app. And here I can see actually at a glance when the error happened. So the XML file was processed, and the error happened when it was processing the Citroen DS 1201 Palas car. I see actually the history what it processed earlier, so I can jump to any of those cars, and in basically any moment of the processing there. And with that facility, I actually can trace the root cause of the error when it happened and where it happened. So if that's something that runs on production, I am able to get that that trace that's easily, that I can reason actually easily, and I don't have to, hypothesize why it happened, try to replicate the error, and then try to, of course, fix the error, deploy the app, and hope that actually I have found the real error and not another one. Yeah, so that's the basic functionality of crash recording. So you get the Redebug recording when the error happens. Okay, maybe I'll show you two more things about how you can actually also use the Redebug. I will disable the crash recording here. I'll rebuild my app. Yeah. Let's close that. Okay. Let's run that, and yeah. And what you can also see with Redebug recording, which sometimes can be quite helpful, is the let's wait for the app to finish. Is the threads, the graph of how threads were executed. So with the read debug, I can open the threads view here, and with the threads view, I can actually see all of the threads that were executed in the app, and I can jump to the particular moment and particular thread there. So we can basically move through those and see how they, in a sense, interacted with each other. So that's also something that's Readybug can provide if you need that. And also, which sometimes gets quite useful on production even, is of course with the recording comes the performance data analysis. So you can see what methods were executed, what actually were methods executed, how many times, and how long it took. No, that's because when we are developing software, many times we can actually struggle in trying to create a data that will reassemble the real data that the application will process. Of course, we have lots of tools to generate lots of data if our application will process those kind of data, but sometimes we are just not doing that good enough. With Readybug, you can actually profile your app on production if needed. Okay, so those were the three things I wanted to show you live here. Maybe I'll go to my presentation here, and yeah, where does this functionality actually works with Readybug? So basically, you can use it almost everywhere where you use .NET, and you don't have to have access to the virtual machine or the underlying operating system at all. Readybug goes wherever your application goes. It embeds in your application itself. So you can run that in Lambda functions running on AWS cloud, for example, or Azure serverless. You can run that in Kubernetes cluster, running some Docker images with the .NET Core web services. Of course, you can use that with normal .NET Framework 4.6 and later. Yeah, you can use that on mobile devices with Xamarin. You can deploy your app on Android and on iOS. Basically, there are no virtual machine on iOS, but we still work with that. And of course, for those to work, you'll need to have to deploy the Readybug recording server, and they will stream the recording there. But that's quite easy because you can run that as Windows service or deploy that as a Docker image somewhere. And yeah, and we even managed to get that running on in Unity games. So yeah, pretty much almost everywhere. Okay, yeah, that's I think some quite brief presentation of that, and I hope that you could see some opportunities for yourself to have that as a kind of a safety build when you run your apps, and yeah, you can download the Readybug from our website. If you have any questions, you can ask me now, or you can of course email me later. And yeah, and I hope you have some questions for me. Let me maybe stop sharing the screen. I'm not sure if I will be able to hear you from the microphone, but let's try that.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So this is more like recording what is happening and when we do the replay. So for example, if we have a web service and after we recording everything like crash, if we do the replay, is there any chance we are recreating the same object to the database when we do the replay,
Yeah. Okay. So that's only the historical recording. So we are not creating, objects, recreating objects or something like that. We are just presenting the data that was happening during the execution. And we are not, also, we are not storing the whole objects, only the part that actually were read that are stored. So you basically, if you process some large blobs of information, but you're not, directly reading this data from the database object, we are not storing that. Because this data would be huge, so we are not doing that. We do have some additional facilities for you to actually limit what is being recorded. So you can basically ignore some parts of the application of being recorded, because if you're processing all of that, a lot of data in memory, which is fast, and we are storing that somewhere in the disk, which is slower, you will get some performance penalty. We of course have made the debug, to do the recording in a very efficient way. So we basically even, we are doing most of the analyzing part, so the heavy lifting during the compilation phase, not on the runtime, because that would be just much slower, and would also have to analyze code that it's not our code. That's, for example, Microsoft libraries or so on. So if we would, for example, hook into the virtual machine directly, we are not doing that. We are doing most of the heavy lifting during the compilation phase. But the downside is, of course, we are not storing everything. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And another question. For my understanding, we can store in the recordings in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
In that case, can we, like the multiple developer, can accessing exactly same record at the same time, so that we can boosting the debugging opportunity?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, maybe I will not share this thing, but you can basically, we do have a recording server that you have, the application will stream the recording there, and you can hook up your Visual Studio there, and you can, the crash recording screen, for example, will show you the crashes that when it happens, and you can click that, crash in the crash recorder window, and it will download the appropriate recording and load that in your Visual Studio automatically. So you can go with that.
All right, thank you. That's cool. Do you have any question in the room, Jim?
Hello. I'm a library developer, and say I want to write a test application to test the library with, but I don't actually want to distribute the RevDebug, the DLLs or whatever that come with it, with the library. Is it okay to just take those out, or do I need to recompile it without the RevDebug stuff inside?
Yeah, you will, unfortunately, you will have to recompile. We are basically instrumenting the app, the library, the app, whatever. So yeah, you will have to do that. But of course, it's quite easy to do, because you can, for example, enable or NuGet package with our environment variable on your build server, and you can have the RevDebug compiled code, for example, used during the automated tests. So you'll get the recording for your test when they fail, which will speed up the finding of the root cause of that. And then you can just have the release pipeline. Do not use the debug. So you can have that with the release bundle. Can have that disabled. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Of course, one thing I haven't actually shown, but of course you can in the case of the library, maybe it's not that useful, but for other apps, you can actually have your app with the RevDebug embedded. But by default, you can set up the RevDebug to a standby mode, so it won't record anything, and it will slow down the app at all. And you can then remotely actually enable the recording. So you can choose what mode of recording you want, on the inner runtime, yes, whenever you want to. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So this is very cool. And they are kind enough so that they give away several licenses, and I still have that. So if you guys, one of you, want to try extending the trial period, just let me know so that I can share, not share, but give away the subscription. All right, thank you, Adam, for your time and for your presentation. That was fantastic.
Thank you very much. And if any one of you have some questions, just drop me an email. I will surely answer that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, so it's the 7:55. We resume the session from 8:01 or 2 after the Ken will be ready. All right, it's your opportunity to grab another drink.
Yep.
Please join to the Hangout. And I recommend you to using the headset.
It's my first time to use the Hangout, but it's...
You can rejoin where I invited you.
And
Use this.
this one, and
Already. All right, I have it on the share your desktop.
okay,
Did you share your desktop?
this one.
From there you can share. All right.
連絡先交換します。大丈夫ですか？途中で抜けると思うんです。4つ予定。2人とも。すいません。
Try this one first.
LINE でもやらない。
で、KEN、AZUMA 多分出てくる。
KEN、AZ、
MA で。それかまあツイッターでもうそのまま出さすか。
この
あ、そうです。はい。これ。こいつですね。違いますね。それです。はい。お願いします。
お願いします。
Did you share your status or do you want to duplicate? How you want to duplicate?
Yes, mine.
Yeah.
Yes, yours.
No, both yours. Which one you want to present? I mean, duplicate might be easier. I'll share it. But you can just share in your screen if you want.
What? This one is not.
This is mine.
This is yours.
Because I'm not person. May I share yours? So you're showing the seconds. And you want to do any duplicate, you can do it. But you need to duplicate one.
はい、よろしくお願いします。Duplicate. Oh.
No, you just minimize the hangout. Just minimize hangout.
Minimize? The problem is I forgot about my AC. AC adapter.
You don't have AC? But this is a MacBook Air, right?
MacBook Air.
Does anybody have MacBook Air AC adapter? MacBook Air.
I think
MacBook Air.
This is OWIN. So.
MacBook Air. Does anybody use Macintosh in this room? No, really? We have so many Macintosh people. So this is people seeing.
Okay.
And could you go back to Hangout to make sure your microphone is up and running? Yeah, and the settings. And make sure your phone pick up the Jabra.
Okay. It's weird. 喋ってます。Ken is speaking. Ken A is speaking. Okay.
All right, people, it's time to resume. For the next speaker, it came from Infra-Logistics, and he's showing the Angular UI for .NET.
Yeah, that
Indigo.Design.
Indigo.Design. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, good evening, everyone. So today I'm gonna talk about our solution Indigo.Design. So, does anybody know the name Infra-Logistics?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. The few viewers. But we are doing the UI, the control development. The company like Terraric or the DevExpress, and now we are providing the tool as well, the prototyping tool or the VS Code extension for the generating code from the design stuff. So today I'm gonna talk about this kind of stuff. So my name is Ken, and I'm one of the Microsoft Regional Director. Does anybody know about what the Microsoft Regional Director is? No, you only. So the Microsoft RD is kind of Microsoft MVP. But this is the more like business side, and we are 160 people in the worldwide, and we are the kind of external supervisor for the executive of the Microsoft, like Satya Nadella, or the Kevin Scott, or the Scott Guthrie, that kind of people. So we are given the feedback, from the our the region in charge. I'm in charge of the Japanese region, and one of two the Japanese regional director. And I'm regularly twittering on the Twitter, but how am I twittering about the dirt biking? So please if you don't want to see the my dirt biking, please avoid the Twitter. Anyway, so today I'm talking about the Indigo.Design. So Indigo.Design is our the solution, and the has a 3-part and the Indigo.Design system for Sketch, and the second one is a prototyping and the usability studies by the Indigo.Design, and the generating code from these the prototyping or the Sketch the visual design. Okay. So the Indigo.Design is a unified platform for the visual design, UX prototyping, code generation, and app development. So I guess the most of you guys today is a developer, right? So you guys are working with a designer regularly, no? So sometimes designer is unknowing, right? So they don't know about the how to code. They don't know about the limitation of the program itself. So sometimes they are doing the some nice visual design on the Photoshop or the Illustrator, but it cannot be implemented by the code. So in Japanese, it's we're saying like any kaita mochi is a rice cake on the paint. It looks like delicious, but we cannot eat that. That kind of meaning. But the design sometimes the designer is making that kind of things. So we want to avoid this kind of miscommunication between the designer and the developers. Okay, so design and development teams can deliver pixel perfect app with Indigo.Design. So these are the kind of boring marketing message. I'm gonna skip this. And as I mentioned, these are 3-part. The one of the 3, and this is focusing on the Indigo design system on the Sketch. So as I told you, we Infra360 providing the user interface control, like a data grid or the chart or the input control for the web standards or the .NET platform, like Windows Forms or the WPF. So please imagine the designer already know about the limitation or the how it looks like on the final applications about the UI components like a data grid or the chart. So to do this, we are making the the plugin for the Sketch. The Sketch is the market dominating tools for the UI drawing stuff, and it's a kind of Photoshop like tools. So now we are providing these kind of stencil for the Sketch. So let's see what's happened in the Sketch stuff. So I'm gonna switch to the Sketch tools. So this is a Sketch tool. So this is a typical visual design tool. So, but here's a toolbox from our side. So this is based on our plugin tool. So with our plugin, the user can the designer can select the for example the card just like this. So these are, so I want to zoom into. Where is that? This one. So this is not just a drawing, but we have correspond the UI control for this drawing. So that's why if the designer select the elements from these tools, so we developer can generate a code from these sketch drawing. So this is a fundamental of our design system. Okay, so there's an example drawing. So you can download this application sketch control from our website, but we can generate the final application code from this kind of sketch, the visual design. Okay, so let me go back to the slide. All right, so the first component was sketch visual tooling, and then we are providing the cloud-based the web services, the name the Indigo.Design, so that can import the sketch visual design into the prototype. So with the Indigo.Design, you can make the prototype from the image. So when you're thinking about the prototype, so I think you want to set the screen flow between the screens, or any other interaction between the screens. So you can set this kind of things with the Indigo.Design as well. So let's see the Indigo.Design as well. So so these are our website. This is a Japanese version, but which one? Yeah, this is in the English version of our website. So you can sign up for free, and you can do the trial. So this is really important, but for your designer team, so designer can use that kind of stencil for the UI component forever. So if your designer teams is using this kind of the sketch UI stencil, that visual design can generate a code from the sketch UI design. Okay, so that is really important. So we are charging the cost for the developers, unfortunately, but you can sign up for free for the trial. And this is Indigo.Design, the screen. So you can drag and drop the sketch visual design into here, and then you can see the screen like this. And the important things is that you can maintain every UI element set by the visual designer here. So as you can see, the Indigo.Design already knows about the elements like this kind of personal card or the radio button, and then you can set let's see, adding the interaction. So when you click the name of the people and add the interaction to the edit person here, and then you can set the fade or flip, slide, the kind of interaction between the screens here. Okay, so and then you can distribute this prototype to the the counterpart, for example, the customer or your external partners. So let's see. Okay, here. So I already set several the prototype here, and let's see the one of them. And you can do the usability study on this prototype with the unlimited the people. And you can set the survey for the each application. So for example, so this one. So these are the I'm already done a really quick survey with our usability study features. So that the 9 people are already attended, and I already set the simple task. Please delete the expense with the expense application, and then the most of them are already succeeded, but the several people are failed. So we can see the what was happened in the throughout the process of the the usability study. So this is playback, and the red one is a failure. And the, if you see the blue bubble, this is the succeeding process. But they failed to delete the this coffee expense here. But let's see the succeeded version of the usability study. Let's see this one. All right, this guy has already succeeded. Oh no, sorry. Oh yeah. So this kind of with the two, if you wanted to do the usability study like this, so you should hire the UX guy the for the the by the months or something like that, and the the gathering the people in this kind of room is very expensive. But if you can set the the really quick survey like this, and distribute the mail to the many people, so you can gather the more many statics like this, and also you can see the reaction from the specific users throughout the process. So we are providing the Chrome extension to record the face or the reaction from the users, and you can see what was happening in the process. So we, the developers, expect the users the right selection for the our within our screen flow with the expected manner. But user might do the unexpected way for the the application behavior. So so this kind of things is really useful for the testing for your users to test the usability before you are getting into the real code stuff. Okay, so this is really important. So you can do the prototype the many times as much as you want. Okay, so let's go back to the slide. So as I told you, we have a 3-part. The first one is a sketch. The second part is a prototype. So the sketch imported into the prototype, and from the prototype we can generate the code. So do you guys know about the Angular? Okay, so Angular is the one of the JavaScript framework. So currently we are focusing on the JavaScript framework like Angular, and the from that prototyping we can generate the Angular code. So we are providing the code generator for the Visual Studio Code. So you can connect to the Indigo.Design prototype, from the Visual Studio Code to generate the pixel perfect the code into the Visual Studio Code project. So then, so you can integrate to the backside data or the business logic you're making, and then the the perfect the application. So these kind of things is process we are expecting. So the most important things is with our solution, the designer already knows about the limitation or the how to do with your code by the stencil of the sketch UI. So that this is the most important part. And then you can generate the code from the prototype or the sketch, and then you can use the code. And these kind of process can be iterate. So you can do as much as you want throughout your development process. So this is a quick introduction for the our Indigo.Design. And this is a recap, but design that match your brand, and they build the right design, share, collaborate, and test experience with the users, with the prototype, and they get runnable code with a one click. It's generating code by the VS Code. So because of the network connection or the our side problem, so we can show the VS Code stuff right now, but me and Tachi, that guy over there, can show you the more detail if you want to see more. Okay, so this is a really brief introduction of our staff, but if you guys had any question now, please let me know. Okay.
All right, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Before asking for the question, let me just adding a bit more comment. Because we want handing out the test application for users, right, to see if it works or not. But we have to write in code to make it a UI and workable. But this guy, we don't have to write any code. So UI first and the testing, and only after we confirm everything working, including the video, facial video, the testing, then it's our time to actually code it. So this is perfect. It's very, very interesting. That's why I started writing a blog about it as well. I think so. If you never tried this one yet, please go ahead to try. It's very easy to use, and they also offering hands-on training.
Yeah. In English, if you want. Okay.
All right. Any questions?
Alex.
What product does this compete with? Because I'm thinking of a few from Adobe, and I'm just trying to understand who is the target users for this. It seems like it could be websites, developers, mobile apps.
Yep. Good question. Thank you. So do you remember Microsoft brand?
Yes.
So does anybody like Microsoft brand too? You, me, but nobody, the here. So developer want to focus on the developer too, right? Like a BS code, and the designer want to focus on the visual design tools. The UX guy, the may focus on the prototyping tools. So they have they already have a favorite tools. So this is our starting point about the idea for this solution. So we are given the plugin to their favorite tools, and gathering the pieces of the information from them, and then the gathering into the place to generate the application. So I think you remember about the Dreamweaver, right? And the what kind of things? The Microsoft brand. So the kind of both visual tools and the development tools. But that kind of thing doesn't work for you guys. So please imagine. So from tomorrow, you guys have to use that kind of sketch tools. That might be a nightmare, right? So it's it's a fundamental problem we had before. So we decided to provide just the program. So now we're talking to the Adobe guys as well. And this sketch things is the from the Norway, I think. No, the Sweden. And they are really small small company, and they are not interested in making much money. But Adobe is really big guy, and they want to beat Sketch in this area. So all we have to do is provide a program for the for them. And the one additional things I want to talk about is the way have an extensibility for the that Sketch UI stencil. So please imagine, so you can integrate your own framework with our tools. So if you guys are making your own UI control or the complex UI patterns, so you can provide the UI sketch stencil as well. So you can make that kind of UI complex patterns from our piece UI component, and then you can make the UI patterns that was that. So then your designer already knows about how to do with a stencil. So is our way. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you.
So my question is from the presentation, I don't fully understand why is generated only in Angular, or you have like ability to make some Visual Studio or other.
Okay, so all right, so now we are focusing on the Angular only, and this is a B1 just released in this month. But with the B2, we are focusing on the other framework like React or the other framework like a mobile framework like a Flutter. But in Japan, there are big needs from the big enterprise like manufacturing company about the WPF. So we also thinking about the supporting for the WPF as well. But we are providing the many the UI controls like a WPF, ASP.NET, the Windows Forms. So we already have the final pieces with the code. So all we have to do is the setting the code generation from the the Sketch UI kit to the each platforms. So my short answer is we have a plan to provide more UI framework like a web other web framework like React or the WPF desktop.
Maybe one more. Who generated this? Like, is it created by a person? Because I remember, maybe you remember such a tool on Microsoft homepage, and its code was readable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what is?
Okay, so yeah, uh, you know, I want to show the more detail code generating stuff, but I think I think you don't believe the how the the code is perfect, but please imagine the generating the CSS. CSS is the styling stuff or the coloring stuff, for the the visual design, right? So for example, all right, so from this visual design, you have to make the exact CSS for this. So now our code generation is 90% accurate for this visual design as a CSS generation. So for the last 10% you should make you should perfect the code, but I think 90% is fine, because the most painful point is generating code from the visual design. So the basic layouting or the basic setting of like data grid or the chart is a really easy one, right? But the styling, rounding corner, or the coloring into the code is the very painful point. So that is a point we want to help the developers. Yeah. So anyway, please try it. Please try to generate your visual design to the code, and then so you can compare with the front page. Okay. I think it's better than front page. Yeah. Right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And can someone confirm I'm online, and if you can hear me or not? Hello? Am I online? Can everybody confirm? Please. Please. Does it? And but I do not sharing my display. Okay. Let me share. All right, there you go. I think you can see the display now. Yes. No. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'm the last one today. Thank you for your time, and let me just try to finish on time. All right, so I will talk about OWIN today. And how many of you are familiar with OWIN? One? Just one? Yeah. Two? So it's OWIN is acronym, stands for Open Web Interface for .NET. Obviously, this is for .NET. And my question is there anything else for outside .NET? The answer is yes, of course, because this idea coming from Ruby, if I'm not mistaken. So there is a very cool idea from the Ruby world, and .NET people, which meaning Microsoft people, think it's very good, and we try to implement it to the .NET as well. All right, so the basic of the OWIN. So what OWIN is, it's web application, how to extend web application. So when we think about web application, we have host. So for example, IIS is one of the hosts, or you can running your console application as a host. It's like the exe file running on server. That's the host. Then we have a server. For IIS, IIS is a server and host. If we are running self-host, like the console application is a host, and we need to running web application on top of it to receiving and replying the HTTP request, right? So that's the server. Then we have so-called middleware. So this is the OWIN part. And we have application. So for example, if this is the MVC application, the controller or view are the application, right? So if you are coming from ASP.NET or kind of old-time developer, you know server, you know application, and you know nothing about something between. But if you think about IIS has a plugin to logging everything when you receive a request from user or when you sending request back to user, right? So IIS itself providing the plugin place where a developer can write in code to inject some request response. So OWIN using middleware technology to doing that. To illustrate by using animation, so let's imagine we have a PC, and this PC try to get some web page going to like http bin.com. So this guy sending the request, a request coming to the web application, which could be IIS or could be self-host web application, or could be Node if it's a JavaScript, but this is .NET, so let's stick with .NET web application. But before this request reaching to my application on the right-hand side is my own code. But before even reaching out to that my own code, it goes through multiple middlewares. What we can do with the middleware, we can check what header, what's the body, what's the query string, what's the path, right? So we can check everything, but not only checking, but we can get data, or we can even replacing the data or adding additional headers. So we can tweak the data, or we can investigate the data. Then once this middleware done its job, it passes into the next middleware. So middleware chaining each other. Then finally, it's coming down to my application. So my application knows nothing about middlewares. So my code believes this request coming from user directly to me. But the truth is, it may go through multiple middlewares, right? Then once my code does something, and it's time for my application to respond back to user, usually by sending HTML the response, then it goes through exactly same middleware from different order. So as a middleware developer, we have opportunity to check or do the verify or to modify the data when we receive data and when we sending data. And it also passes into the initial middleware. Only then, web application itself returning the response back to browser. Now, client receiving the information back. Very simple, right? So what we can do here, or any other middleware, one opportunity is we can do logging of what we receive, what we respond. So we don't have to do all the logging in my application because I don't want to keep doing the logging, right? And logging could be program agnostic, but any web application may want to use logging. So we can provide logging middleware so that any developer can implement or inserting logging middleware to log everything. But how you can log? Maybe log to event log to database, log into Cosmos DB. We don't know, right? So we can write in a bunch of middlewares to log everything. Or another thing we can do is we can do the virus check, or we can do the validation if this header is valid or not, which I don't want to do that inside my application. Another thing is authentication. Whenever I see the header do not have the authentication code, we can just reply back to the user, hey, authenticate first. Those kind of stuff we can do by using OWIN middleware easily. So this is a middleware, looks a bit complicated. But this is a function which taking two arguments. One is iDictionary string object, meaning it has a key value pair. What kind of key and value that has? For example, it has a request path, like slash or a slash contact ID, right? Or it also have the request body, which including the request body. When it goes out, it also have response headers or response body. So we have a bunch of dictionary information about the web request and web response. That's this part, iDictionary string object. Then we have a task. What this task does, this is where we want to do something by checking these dictionary data. So if you want to log in everything, you may want to check request body and log to the database maybe. When we're going out, we want to investigate headers and log somewhere, right? So we're getting all the information as iDictionary, then this task is actual code, what we want to do. So if I'm writing down a bit easier to understand way, so var func, this var should be the no capital, var func equal to new app func, and this environment is actually OWIN environment information. This should be including request path, request body, response body, etc., etc., etc. Then the task is something we want to do inside our middleware. It's easy, right? Then we have another terminology, OWIN and katana. How many of you know the word katana? It's not a Japanese sword. It's a project name. All right, so OWIN, if you go to owin.org, it's just a specification. It's just spec, so there is no implementation. OWIN supposed to do blah, 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 right? Just a spec. Then Microsoft is the one to implement by adhering those specs, which we call that katana, the project. So whenever we say OWIN, it's spec, katana, it's implementation. One of the implementation Microsoft does, and there may be any other implementation. If you want to implement your own OWIN, you can do that. So OWIN. So let's go to the actual code. So whenever OWIN or a katana is implemented, the very first thing we need to do is we need to using startup class or OWIN startup. Why? Because when hosting, launching the server, we have to prepare all the middlewares even before running our application. That's where this startup class does. So startup has its own attribute, OWIN startup, type of OWIN console.startup1. In this example, this is a startup1 class. And startup1 only have one method called configuration because I want to configure OWIN pipeline. When I say pipeline, it's middlewares. Inside this configuration in this code, I only have one middleware, says run. And we are just replying the hello world text, plain text information, so that user receiving this information whenever they try to reach into my server, okay? So let's do the demo. All right, so this is just normal console application, .NET 4.7, I guess. And I already included several assemblies from NuGet, basically OWIN and Microsoft.OWIN. And we also need Microsoft.OWIN.self-host because I'm self-hosting on top of console application. When we see the program, because this is console application, of course, we start from main, right? And inside this main, we say webapp.start, and startup1 is a startup OWIN startup class. And we are hosting on port 9000 of localhost. Then when we look at startup1, we have one configuration, one only because I comment out everything else. And at this moment, I only have app.run. So let me hit breakpoint here and run the application. And because this is just another console application, it's running the console, right? So I open up the browser. I say localhost 9000, it's hitting here. Then it reply back, hello world. And as you can expect, you see hello world coming back. So this is a very simple web application using OWIN middleware. All right, let's go back. Now you see I was using app.run. For the OWIN, we have 3 methods to supporting passing the context to next, because the diagram before you saw multiple middlewares, right? One middleware does something and passing to the next. Run runs just code without next, meaning once we do run, it's run and it's done. There is no next. But if we do use, this is more like middleware. So we can running our own code, then we are passing to the next middleware. And we don't have to know what is next. We can just say next, right? Then map is something a bit special. Sometimes we want to run special the code depending on the path. For example, slash is a root. When it comes into the root, we can do whatever we want. But for example, if slash like account, we want to do something special, different application configuration, we can using map to specify when it comes into this path using this application configuration instead. So I show you the example because seeing the real code is easier. All right, so let's do use first. So the application. By the way, this order is very important. If I do the run first, it does not hit use. So I need to say app use, then app run, okay? And let me put breakpoints. So as I said, use is expecting next one, next to run, right? So it's taking the context, which is environment, which may including the request path. Then I do next invoke without knowing what is next. Then I am having a different method afterward. So let's see how this works. Hit F5 and go into the browser. Hit refresh. So as we can expect, the first thing it hit is app use because this is the top of the application, right? This is the first middleware. F10. Now I'm ready to invoke next. What is next? It's app run because this is one underneath the current middleware. So it's returning the response and what's happening to the initial application. It's coming back to this middleware. As I illustrated in the diagram, the first middleware has the opportunity to investigate incoming, but as well as outgoing, right? So if I going back to the diagram, the first middleware is actually this the use middleware. The second middleware was run, and I do not have any application at this moment. I only have 2 OWIN middleware. One did just the console log. Another one just do the return. Then it coming back to the original middleware. All right. So if I see the result on the page, it's actually same. But if I see on the console, it's writing out the path, which is root at this point, right? Okay, then let's do something else. Let's do map. So as I said, map only apply for the specific path. So at this moment, I'm setting WAC fault as a path Then I specify app.map to the path string of this threshold. All right. So if I put a breakpoint here, and inside this one, because I cannot use app anymore, I'm just calling application. But this is another configuration of the OWIN. So if I running this one, and if I coming back to here, if I coming back to the browser, so let's keep it as it is. So I try to hit root. So first thing I hit is app use, exactly same as before, and app run. Coming back to app use, done. Where's the map? Because it does not meet the path, the spec, right? So let me going back to browser to saying I want to default. Then as soon as I type default, because it meet my path, it's actually hitting the application inside default map. Then I throw exception. And now you can see the exception page. Why? Because I was adding another application on top using application use error page. So actually inside my map application, I specified two middleware. One middleware to use error page, which is this is error page. And the two is just throwing the error message. It says random exception, and it says random exception, right? So this is how it works. Right, so I explained learn use map. Now I'm talking about the middleware. So as I said in the previous slide, the app func is a func of the iDictionary of a string object, which is the environment, like the request path, request body, response headers. Then we want to have that task, right? Then we can specify my middleware. What I'm talking about is this can be middleware, yes, but it's hard-coded in my startup, right? How I can reusing this one to others. Let's say if I want to creating the NuGet package, how I can distribute. The way to distribute this as a middleware is to writing middleware. How to write middleware? Just one class, the public class, my middleware in this case, and inherit nothing. Then I just specify app func, which is iDictionary string object, then task. So this is exactly the same signature I was explaining in the document, right? Then in my middleware, you can ignore this option at this moment. I will explain that later. What I am doing is there is only one method, invoke, and I get the context out of environment. Then I'm writing the middleware information. I'm doing the invoke next. Then I'm writing the middleware after. So this is exactly the same, the logging application middleware, but I just moving out to my own middleware implementation. So let's come in back and let's comment this out. So instead of using this one, I want to use my own middleware. So before it was app use, now I say app use my middleware type. So this is how we can distribute my middleware. So as a developer, you can just say app use which middleware you want to use. So I want to use my middleware. And I'm just passing my option. This is a way you can passing the option to your own middleware. But just try to see how this works. And let me just put the breakpoint here. Start. Going back to browser and remove default, going back to the root. And it is hitting the, not this one. So it's coming to my use my middleware. And now what? Wait. Yeah, let me just comment this out. So commenting this out, I only using this one. And coming back. Oops. All right, so it's coming to my own invoke. This is inside my middleware, and it hit invoke. So if I coming down to here, this invoke next, what's the next? Next, of course, is run, right? Because I'm setting my middleware before my run method. So that's exactly same, but I'm moving the source code to my middleware so that you can reusing my code. And finally, what I want to do is, this is kind of good enough, like up use my middleware, but I want to using like this up use error page. So I want to implement my own method. So what I want to do, instead of this one, I want to say up use my middleware rather than asking you guys to pass in the generic type. To do that, you can just write in the extension class, which only takes app builder. This is a very normal the method extension. So we can extend the method by saying use my middleware. If I start this one, and coming back to my browser, refresh, then it's still coming to invoke. Even though I'm using the different way of calling my middleware, it's still coming to my middleware, right? Now I'm ready to package this up to NuGet. And how you can use it, it's very easy because you only need to say up use my middleware. Then you can pass in any parameter, and there is no limitation how much what kind of parameter you can pass in. We can define whatever we want. So that's the basic idea of the OWIN middleware. So this is a middleware option. So at this moment, I ask you to specify which the method or which code you want to run. Then I creating the custom method, extension method, so that you can call use my middleware rather than use the blanket my middleware. All right. So what's the use case of this OWIN? The base use case which Microsoft does is authentications. So whenever you set up MVC by saying I want to do the individual authentication, many times you see app.use Facebook authentication, app.use Google authentication, app.use cookie authentication, right? Those kind of stuff is using exactly the same way to implement middleware, meaning you implement your own middleware as well. And let me show you my own implementation. Some of you may know about Line and bot framework. And bot framework is a great framework to writing the bot application, but we do not support the Line application as part of bot builder, meaning we have to writing our own. So what I'm doing here is I have my own Line middleware. And let me go back to my Line middleware. So that's exactly the same in the invoke. So let's say if I go into my bot, hey, this simulator sending by using Line format, Line bot format, which bot builder do not understand. So what I'm doing in the middleware is I receiving the request, checking if this comes from Line, then I get the body of the request. After that, I just need to convert everything back to the activity which bot builder can understand, right? So even though my application, so this is my application in the controller, and inside the controller, this application expect body from posting, and it should be activity of bot builder format. And when I receive that, it is said bot builder connector activity. But when I receiving in my application, it was line bot activity, not bot builder activity. So I'm using middleware to rewriting everything and passing to my application. So my application know nothing about what middleware did, right? And how I can set up this one? It's super easy. Why? Because I just need to use these 3 lines. Use upline channel. So this one is my middleware. So whenever you're passing the information, this middleware do the job to convert everything. So my tip here is, first of all, OWIN is just a good way for you to write in some code to inject the operation. You can do when you receive email as a message, or you can do whenever the server is trying to respond back to user. And when you want to use it, whenever you see the opportunity, whenever you need to change the type, whenever you need to check the header, whenever you need to adding some additional information, you can use your own middleware to do that. Make sense? All right. So if you are very, very interested in what is it in my own source code, you can go into my GitHub to check it out. Where's my slide? Yeah. All right. All right, that's it. Any questions? Yeah, Alex. Thank you for your help to speak up by using the microphone.
How does this compare to HTTP modules and I guess the ASP hosting runtime?
So this is very generic type. So as long as it's .NET, you can use in this one. Other things you mentioned, depending on some other technology, so it only be able to use inside ASP.NET, or it only be able to use in IIS. But this one you can use anywhere. So as I show you, I'm using this on the console application, but this exact middleware can running on IIS as well, because it is pipeline on the .NET. So this is just .NET pure technology.
I see.
Yeah.
It's not ASP.NET. It's
not
just...
ASP.NET. This is for .NET. Then we have another question, .NET Core. .NET Core have exactly same idea, but they are using slightly different way to implement it. The thing is they do not using OWIN context, which having the key value pair, but they are using more like the HTTP context stuff, because that's easier to handle actually. And I totally agree it's easier, but what suffer is I cannot reusing my code, copy and paste. We have to rewrite some portion, not too many. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other question?
I have one more.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
What's the use case for a small service, that self-hosted console application versus using IIS for a microservice like this?
So first of all, do you want to use IIS or not? That's the first question. Because sometimes, what if you want to run this on the Linux, .NET Core, right? Or because IIS is kind of heavy, and you want to run on the container, and you want to try to find a very lightweight the web hosting, maybe you can write your own hosting. But then you lose all the capability which IIS can provide you, but you can using middleware to somewhat compensate.
I see.
Yeah. There are so many middleware out there, so you don't have to write. But sometimes you really have to write like this line to bot builder, because not so many people really try to use that. Any other question? Yep, Mr. Pienbock.
So
yeah,
with the use case, the use.
Yep, app use.
What happens if you don't call next?
So what happens if you do not call next? It does not go into next, I guess.
So what was the reasoning for giving the users the option to have it instead of just having like I guess you probably don't know this, but why not just have one for the way in and one for the way out rather than the next to invoke yourself?
Because the reason why we want to call next is as a developer, as a middleware developer, we have no idea how you configure your server, right? And we have no idea what is really next is. So we just do whatever we need to do and pass a context to the next. And as a developer, if you do not want to do the next, just use run instead of use. So maybe we can try doing that. But the idea for use is anyway to calling the next.
Yeah, I assume that it's just going to stop there, and then the whole thing
maybe
could be broken.
Could be broken or could be returning with the best effort. I don't know. We can test that. Yeah.
It's just interesting rather than having like in and out as, instead of context and next.
Yeah.
Context in and context out.
Yeah, this is more like the coming from spec. So if you read the spec, there may be a good reason why we call that next.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's some sort of architecture pattern.
Yeah, enterprise architecture pattern by Alex.
Yeah, they said I've seen it. It has something to do with asynchronous architecture. I don't know it though.
Yeah.
But I've seen exactly this. I don't understand.
Right, but the basic idea for the next is because we may or may not have the next middleware, so we just call it next whenever we do next. And that's the next comes in. And we don't have to know what next is. That's the server developer is set up your middleware. And as a middleware developer, we don't have to know what's next. We just play with the context. Once it's done, just pass into the next.
Let me confirm.
The microphone, please.
So ASP.NET Core is on the OWIN technology.
Yes.
What the advantage of using ASP.NET Core? It seems just using OWIN.
So what's the advantage of using .NET Core versus Full.NET?
Yeah.
So as long as you can use Full.NET, I strongly recommend you to use Full.NET because I think that's more powerful. But sometimes you want to run very small the application, or you want to have the two versions side by side, or you may want to run on the Linux. There are many reasons why you need .NET Core. And if you don't need it, I recommend Full.NET at this moment. It's my own opinion, though. Yeah, but .NET Core sounds very cool. Any other? Jim has another question, right?
I was just wondering if this was going to come to other technologies besides HTTP, like maybe WebSocket or like message queue or something.
WebSocket, I think, because WebSocket is MVC anyway, right? I mean, we can do the signal R. And it's, I don't know. Yeah, I cannot answer by my imagination. Well, we can check out, but yeah. As long as I know, this is more like the HTTP technology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Castro already
implemented, but the Castro is a small, not small, but the different implementation of the web application for .NET.
Yeah, I'm thinking more not web application.
Yeah.
Like IoT.
Sure.
Here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So many applications need some way to inject your service without knowing the main code, because you want to do something like just verification or logging. And many technologies should support this kind of plugin stuff, right? Like the Dynamics has its own plugin, SharePoint it has its own plugin, but this OWIN is just for .NET. But because it said .NET, but it also have the word web, open web interface for .NET. So yeah, maybe we can try to find maybe injection their sessions next time. Try to find how we can inject everything. Yeah. Yeah, not security concern, not secret injection, but any other question? All right, so let me stop YouTube because we don't need any more on the YouTube at this moment. Goodbye, YouTube.